Welcome to this episode of Let's Chat. I'm your host, Chris Revel, coming from the Cat Cave in Warwick, Rhode Island. Let's Chat is a long-form conversational chat where I sit down with folks from the world of punk rock, podcasting, and pop culture. We've got a wonderful episode today. We have Scott Crawford, a documentary filmmaker who you may know from his work from the quintessential hardcore documentary Salad Days, or his most recent flick, Creem, America's only rock and roll magazine. And Scott is currently working on his latest flick, which is called Something Better Change, which follows uh, legendary punk band D.O.A. and frontman Joe Keithley is his shocking political victory. And so this documentary is going to follow Joe Keithley as he runs again for office up in Canada. And fascinating story. I called this punk rock Parks and Rec, and it sounded as if Scott and Shaun also agreed with that. Oh, that's right. We also have a great friend of ours, friend of the show, Shaun Colon, as a guest host. So Shaun had connected me with Scott back in October when Shaun and I had produced our punk rock documentary filmmaker roundtable. You can find that YouTube, Facebook, on any of our pages. We'll be posting that everywhere as well again. And it was tons of fun. We had Shaun and Scott, Taylor Mording, who made Pick It Up, Scott in the 90s and The Last Blockbuster, and John Nix, who made Beyond Barricades, The Story of Anti-Flag. You could find those. That was tons of fun. And now John, Scott, Shaun, and Taylor are all past guests. So go back in the archives and you can listen to their episodes. Shaun's come on a bunch as a guest and a guest host, so thank you, Shaun. That punk rock doc filmmakers roundtable meant the world to me on a lot of levels because it was really fun. It was one of the coolest things I've ever done. And the next day when we had our Let's Chat meeting, we formed Let's Chat Media that day. We've been working together, trying to kind of figure out what we're doing, and the Let's Chat has kind of grown and taken on a life of its own. We have Let's Chat with Chris Revel as our podcast. We have Let's Chat Live, our video podcast, which you can find on YouTube and Facebook page. Every Tuesday at 8:30 and some Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. EST as well. And that is hosted by myself and Brianna Benjamin, my business partner and producer and friend extraordinaire. And we rotate the host. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's Bree, sometimes it's producer Chris Ball or Robert or one of our Let's Chat Club members. It's been really great. That's been a lot of fun as well. And we also have just been really just plugging away. So I personally am super excited for Something Better Change, as I'm sure you are. There is a Kickstarter going on right now. They're a few $1,000s under their goal of $50,000. So if you hear this, give a donation like I plan on tonight. Anything you can do can help. Scott and Shaun, we get starters and a lot of stuff I didn't know, which was really cool. I like to learn. So that was really cool to learn about what really goes into running a Kickstarter. So you could watch Salad Days, which Scott's documentary, or Shaun's flick, Off Fat Rec, a documentary about Fat Records. Those are both streaming on Amazon Prime, so give those a watch. Even if you're not gonna, even put it on, walk away for a little while. Give these guys a couple bucks any chance you can. They deserve it. Amazon don't need that money. So if you can, give a donation. I apologize for the audio isn't perfect. We had some technical issues, but I think it will work for the best it is. And last but not least, if you are listening to this, possibly you might want to know a little bit more about our club, our Let's Chat Club. We have some new members we're just welcoming. So our Let's Chat Club is an online community that empowers content creators, creatives to monetize their passion project while making industry connections. Let's Chat Club helps create and build and strengthen their brands and build infrastructure to succeed. We offer classes, networking opportunities, and have an array of expertise to help you with all your podcasting needs. On top of that, besides we have private Facebook group and a private Discord. It's been a lot of fun. It's a great sense of both community and people who are really passionate and serious about this stuff and really want to take their podcast or whatever their creative project is to that next level while also having fun and making connections. And it's February and there's in a pandemic, so life can be isolating. So having a community has been really helpful as well. So you can find out all that information is on letschatpodcast.net. Find us on all the things at Let's Chat Podcast or at Let's Chat Live. And let's get to it. so much for doing this. We're super excited. I know we got to work together a little bit when we did the round table, which was super fun. I had a blast. That was
Yeah,
one of
that
the
was
coolest
great.
things that I've done.
That was a lot of
That's
fun.
great. All of you have, and now two of you are possibly going to be getting nominated for an Oscar. So anyway, we could push that.
Well,
That was kind of
That's
surreal.
insane. That's just insane.
I don't know how that happened,
That's
but yeah, it's a very long list of, we're just in that long list of like, hey, maybe, and then you get to
Still cool.
then you get to the short list, and then they make a shorter list, and then they make, so.
Yeah, of course.
like,
I mean,
yeah, but I've never even close to maybe.
Well,
yeah,
it's far from that, but yeah, but I was kind of, I think that's just really more a function of the distributor and getting it in front of the right people and stuff like that. But yeah, that was crazy news. But
yeah, so it was fun doing like research for this about you, because like last time I was like really more focused on Salad Days and learning about that, and like now kind of I was going back and like learning about it. Like I guess it's insane. The scene that you were involved in is so, and especially every year it goes on, it becomes more and more and more legendary, which I know you did so great with Salad Days. But I didn't realize that you were also like an author, and like you were the editor-in-chief of like a harp, and like you had like a long career prior to becoming a filmmaker. So I'm just kind of curious here, what was the transition from writer to filmmaker? Was that always the goal?
no, actually it wasn't. I didn't really have any real interest. I mean, I've always been a movie guy, and certainly made a point when I was doing the magazine of covering music documentaries and music, film related stuff that had to do with music. But no, it didn't have any. But having said that, like when the magazine ended, the magazine folded in 2008, which is sort of like the year that like magazines died. Everything
Yeah,
fucking,
I'm sorry.
And
you did it, Chris. It was you.
And it was and so that I started thinking about writing a book about kind of coming of age in the DC punk scene, and started working on an outline and things like that. And then I realized, well, the best part of this story is the music. Ultimately, it's not me or whatever. So that's what made me think about doing a documentary. And also, kind of like when you do a magazine, it's like when you launch a magazine, they always tell you, look at the newsstand and fill a niche, because you're going to die. I mean, the chance of a magazine surviving more than a year is like, the odds are stacked so high against you. And so I remembered that. And so I looked at kind of like the documentary landscape at that point, music documentary landscape, and realized no one had done one about DC. And I was like, what the fuck? This is like one of the greatest, most important music, punk rock scenes of the, well, even today, but
Of the world.
Yeah, specifically of the 80s when I came of age. So I thought, we got to do this. So I just kind of took that punk rock approach that I had, from doing a zine when I was a kid, and to doing, to launching a magazine actually, as well. But that was later bought, and then I ran that for about 8 years. But and so I reached out to my friend Jim Saw, who's been documenting the scene, and he's a documentary photographer. He's documented all, various news around the world. And so I reached out to him, and he's, it took a little convincing, but we found our way, and just started doing it. The whole thing took about 3.5 years, but it was a real learning process. But it was really, I was blown away by the response, and really kind of happy. It's hard to watch now. It's kind of like, oh, but there's some parts in there that I really love. So.
Yeah, well, you're too close to it, but from the outside perspective, like myself and Shaun, like especially like in our like scene or our like niche communities, it's like it seems to be like the gold standard of docs of that time.
Thank you.
I watch it and don't see anything wrong with it, but I'm sure. Do you feel that way when you watch a Fat Wreck, because you made it? So obviously, it's just you're too close to it.
I can't watch it.
Yeah.
I mean, right. Anyway, I mean, I'm glad. I love it. Like it's like a child that grew up and has now had its own life, and doing things, and I'll revisit every once in a while. It's like it was cringy. Even parts were cringy for me even right when it came out. there were parts where I had to like leave the theater because of their audio problems or like something bugged me. I still like, although I'll say this, every once in a while, like Chris, I think you mentioned something about the movie before, and then so I've gone back and watched that part. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot we did that. Like the part with the drum, the kick drum thing that we did. It's such a silly little thing, but it's like we did a bunch of fun stuff like that. So I want to get even further away from it before I probably watch the whole thing again. I've dipped in to like watch a thing here or there as I was like doing some promotion or having to cut up part of it for some advertising or something. I've like caught myself watching a section and being like, oh, I forgot we used that on hold music and we got that from him, and that's not available anywhere. You can't get it. You can only get it on the hold music. In fact, they were very specific about not putting it out anywhere. So like anyway, I didn't mean to go into an anecdote. Scott at least has another movie that he put out. I'm still in that production hell where I'm still working on movies, and I'm like, am I a filmmaker or am I a film dabbler?
It's so funny. Like in my line of work is I work in behavioral health, and it seems to be like the universal truth for like creatives and for art and for everything. Like it's the reason we all have to hire people have to hire a therapist. Like no one can see their own problems. You always need that outside perspective. It's so fascinating. I think it's so funny that like with art, or if it's like your own mental health, physical health, it's like a universal truth that we all kind of constantly forget. We're like, you need another perspective to really get the full truth.
Yeah, no, it's true.
What do you think, Scott?
I don't know why I do this sometimes. I don't. When you're in the middle of it and you're in the thick of it and you're just like, oh my God. But yet here I am working on a new one, and I feel like I'm like a 12-year-old. Like I'm really excited about it, and I'm excited that other people seem to be into the idea. And it's always that thing of like where you think you have a really great idea for a film, but like then you share it with other people, and you kind of wait for that, like, oh, that's a great idea, or people are excited. So it's good to see that it's resonating with some folks, because sometimes you think it's just you.
Well, I love you picked for this one because from like the trailers and just like reading everything about it, like we all need a little bit of a syringe, if you will, of just optimism within politics, and then have the punk rock crossover. Like I was just watching it as a little stone the other night, and in my head I'm like, hey, it's like punk rock Parks and Rec.
It kind of is. Actually.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
I was joking about it the other day with somebody. It's true. And we're going to capture a lot of that, because we're going to be in the city council with him, and you're going to see, I think there's going to be some real just sort of comedy and humor that comes with this. And I'm looking forward to it, because he's
a funny guy.
He is a funny guy. Yeah. We should say the name of the film. The name of the film is Something Better Change, which is actually a D.O.A. album. And but it's about Joe Keithley, who's a singer of D.O.A. and continues to be, but ran for office in his hometown of Burnaby, which is a population of about 250,000, like 6 times over the course of like 15 years. And then finally won this in 2018. And when I read that, I was like so bummed about what was going on politically in this country, as I think a lot of us were. And when I saw that, I just went like, fuck, I needed that news. That was a really like a bright spot, and I just felt like, what a great story. And let's cover him. Let's follow him into his next election and see what that's like. And so I approached him with the idea, and he was like, yeah, let's do it. So we're just going to be following around, win or lose. I mean, that's kind of the fun thing about this, is like, we're going to be capturing it as it's happening, and win or lose, that's the film. So
yeah, you have a good arc.
Yeah,
you got a built-in arc, you son of a bitch. I hate you so much.
And it'll be, we need to. It's about Joey and D.O.A. So there'll be, obviously a part of the film will be about D.O.A. and the kind of impact that they made, and you need to create, context for folks to understand, why this guy is doing what he's doing and who he is. So that'll be in there as well. But it'll be interesting for me to do something where it's in the now. It's happening right. It's like this sort of verite where it's happening and you're covering it, and it's not you looking back. I mean, like I said, part of the film will be looking back, but the last two films I've done have been entirely set in a completely different decade, so this will be happening in the here and now. So
that's exciting. And then you have the new Texas governor in there.
Oh, Beto O'Rourke.
Yeah, like then the movie comes out and then he becomes governor. He's the governor. No, I mean it may be. There's some speculation because of what he did in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Both his campaign, but also this last election, like it's really close. And then with some of the stuff that Abbott had, he kind of pissed off everybody. So it's a good opening for Beto, and also with what happened in Georgia. I think there's a lot of be like, hey, if you keep the groundwork going, it's all about the groundwork and reaching people who have disaffected.
We had a huge progressive wave. My wife is actually really involved in advocacy and activism, and we had a huge progressive wave hit Rhode Island which I know people think Rhode Island, since it's a northern state, but up here we call them Dino Dems. Our Democrats are basically Republicans, and our Republicans are a little closer to liberal. It's very weird. So there's definitely a nationwide movement, which is wonderful. To see that we're all on the same page with it too, because if you pulled out your MAGA hat, this would be a little different.
Yeah, I mean, and this one maybe it'll come out likely when can be at film festivals again.
Exactly. The hope is to get it, to premiere it at Toronto or something.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I had my vaccine already, which I'm really grateful for. I'm hoping for everyone else to be able to get theirs when they're able to. So far so good.
I mean, I'm hopeful for the movies that I'm gonna put out that I get to see you at. Maybe there'll be a South by Southwest again or something that goes there.
I bet. I think
haven't heard much about what's going on with them.
People crave the art too much to ever. I don't know when it will be, but I don't ever think we'll ever go to an age where everything is fully digital, like Ready Player One. People need.
Absolutely.
And this year shows you how important that connection, physical connection to being around other people is, something I took for granted as well.
Hey Scott, are you gonna do virtual slam dance?
You mean this year? I'm not doing anything with it. I mean, I'll probably
no. I mean, watch it. Are you gonna
Paul. You mentioned that Paul.
I know. That's what I mean. I imagine because they're doing a whole virtual thing.
Yeah.
And that's a good little segue to mention who else is producing the documentary there. You can mention that right now.
Yeah. So Paul Rackman, who's the co-founder of Slam Dance, and also a filmmaker who directed American Hardcore. He's going to be producing this with me. So.
Oh wow.
Producer. Yeah. So I think we have a really good team of people.
What a great age of I mean, it's like a golden age of documentaries right now. And when you were talking earlier, did you guys happen to see that Knocking Down the House with that one that had AOC and then she actually won? Kind of same story you had where except they didn't think she was going to win, so that made their documentary a lot better.
That was really good.
Yeah, that one really moved me, and it was really beautiful.
I'd love to get her for the film, but I don't know.
I bet you could. She might have some hardcore.
No, once you
ties.
Get Beto, bro, tell Beto to make the call, bro. He's gotta have her. He gotta at least follow her on Twitter. Be like Beto, slide in them DMs. We need to get the AOC on this shit. Don't say it like that because then they'll tell you you're weird.
I forgot his name, but the guy from Most Precious Blood, remember that band? I think he's
in New York.
Is it New York? I know he's it's either New Jersey or New York, but it's an old hardcore. There's a few people.
I'm going to interview him. I'm going after him as well. Yeah. So yeah, it's going to be, and then I'm going to go back and talk to some folks like Jack Grisham, who ran for governor in California in the 80s, and I already spoke with Jello and things like that. So
how is that? I would love to hear about the Jello interview. I think all of us are like, was it what we expect? Like Hard Times does the best job making fun of him to the point where it just brings me endless joy.
No, Jello's a very smart, very articulate guy, and it was a good interview.
That was fun, and I'm excited. Like it's incredible the names that for all your docs of like I'm like looking through all your lists. I'm like, oh my god, like, you've gotten to talk to everyone.
Oh.
Were some of these people you known from like childhood, and some are like, oh my god, this is awesome.
Yeah, for Salad Days, a lot of those folks, I'm still friends with. I mean, so that was easy. Beto for this movie worked out because he was a fan of Salad Days, and so
oh wow,
and once I found that out, I reached out and it was like immediate, like, yeah, let's do this. So
it's an easy sell.
And then with the Creem, I think it's, again, like with the Creem doc, when you're talking about a subject that means something to somebody and maybe hasn't been done before, and you hit a nerve and people are willing to come on board. I think that's the case with any probably documentary.
I totally agree.
They're not these are busy people, so they better, you're not going to get a yes unless they're really invested somehow in what it is you're doing story-wise.
Because very easy to say no. It's so easy to say no. The easiest thing is say no, thank you, pass. Yeah. And once you say yes, then you have some weirdo emailing you and calling you and saying, hey, let me come to your house and film you.
It's
and
a lot.
Ask you questions. And especially I gotta be honest, that's like doing a talking head doc. It's the commitment's so much less, it's like, an hour, 2 hours or whatever your time. So the ask is so much less to have someone just be a talking head in a documentary. To go and do what you're doing with Joe, where you're saying, let me follow you around for a few weeks. Let me come into your house. Let me be around. Let me just be, like a fly on the wall. But that just means like it's such a big ask, especially if someone is running government and runs a band and and kudos to you. I mean, that's a huge amount of trust and a huge amount of what's the word I'm looking for? Like he clearly sees that you could do something cool with it. Like trust. And he trusts that you're going to tell the story. But yeah, I mean, trust is the first, but then he also is like, he's probably, knows that he's going to do something cool with this, and not just, the trust is, I think about like, hey, I'm going to tell your story in an honest and creative way. And that's it's a big ask. It's a big ask, like, because this will encapsulate everything he's done up to his life up to this point. It's going to be a retrospective in some ways, because he's how old is Joe?
64, I believe.
So he's 64. So I mean, this is really like a this is your life a little bit, kind of thing. So putting that in your hands, because for a lot of people, this will be the defining way they know about him and his background.
Yeah. So, and I think for a lot of, I hope for a lot of people, it'll be an introduction to him as well, because I want this to kind of be, I'm hoping that's not, and that's why I made sure to show that very early on. Well, Shaun helped with the trailer, he knows, but just to set up that fact.
Oh, you can say it. You can say it on here so they know. Tell them.
Yeah. And Shaun, helped me set up the fact that, this is, that he, just very on in the trailer, I wanted people to know that, like, this is a guy that ran for office and won. It's not going to be like a bunch of talking heads.
The Joe Keithley doc.
Yeah, like, D.O.A. were the greatest band ever.
It's not going to be a D.O.A. It's not the D.O.A. documentary.
No, it's not. I'm sure there are people that can do a better job of that than me. I just want to tell. I want to connect those dots between activism and actually. Running for office and then winning, and then what do you do once you win, and then how do you, there's a lot of questions to be asked there, and I'm
oh my gosh, I can't wait to see this Beto interview.
I'm so
Yeah.
excited.
Like, I mean, I hope I get to do it, but even if I don't, like, I can't wait to see it in the movie, in the context. It's going to be so cool. Those parallels are going to be so interesting. And what, because Beto really hit the zeitgeist and hit the mainstream. So
Big
like,
time.
Yeah.
to be able to parallel that story with Joe Keithley, I just think you this idea guy, you got
You're
so
onto
many
something.
good ideas, Scott.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. One thing I love about the idea of this interview too, because at least my generation, I don't know where of at least where I grew up in the scene I was in, like I'm very guilty of having a lot of political apathy, like because your scene had already happened. That was already like you weren't here kind of thing, and like the political activism, like I first learned about women's rights, veganism, animal rights, all that stuff from going to like punk shows in Connecticut. But towards the end of my time and going to shows, that kind of had disappeared. Like that was pretty par for the course, where you would talk to like a tattooed dude with big ears telling you why you should be vegan or something. And I'm sure it still happens. I'm not involved in the scene, but like anymore. But I think it's so interesting. I remember having so many arguments with people in the back in the day of that, like, there are people within our scene would probably think what Joe is doing is like the opposite. It's like, it's the man. Like you can't be the guy because we're so anti-authority, fuck the man, all that stuff. Of course, I was 18 and had no bills. So I think that's so interesting to be like, well, be a part of the empire and bring it down from within, or be the change while like fighting the change from within, and then showing it. And he's still in a band, which is even cooler. Like I think that's even more fascinating. It's not like, oh, here's the guy who did something in the 80s and then 40 years later he's a politician. It's like, and I know you're going to draw that straight line of activism and music, and then oh god, it's just such a inspiring story, and I'm really hoping this will encourage more people and younger people and people my age who are like up until Trump were probably a little politically apathetic.
I think it was a little easier to be apathetic until Trump, because I'm not suggesting, I had my issues with Obama as well, but
Sure.
but I'm going to have issues with, I'm pretty left of the dial, so I'm going to, going to have issues with just about probably any Democrat in there. But I certainly was an enthusiastic supporter of him. But yeah, it was easier, I think, to be a little more apathetic. And then you have Trump come along where you just went, whoa. It was like a wake up call. Like, okay,
yep.
I've been sleeping for a little bit. It's time to wake up, And so I'm excited, and it's a great sort of David and Goliath kind of story. And I'm always about underdog stories. Really the Creem and Salad Days are both kind of underdog stories if you look at them, in a certain light.
Yeah.
DC was not New York or LA. It had to create its own thing and went on to do it on its own terms, and to a lot of success. And the same with Creem, where it was not Rolling Stone and not some of these other slicker magazines, but yet had really defined music journalism, and did it on their own terms, and became a success at the same time. So the number 2 magazine to Rolling Stone on the newsstand. So, but again, they were in Detroit. They were not on the coasts. They were Detroit, and so once again, another story of like, I love how the sort of the geography plays a part in these stories. Well, I guess in the case of Joey, it does too. I mean, can you imagine a guy named Joey Shithead ever getting elected in America? It just wouldn't happen.
No, not even in a small town.
Not even in a small town. Not even
not even like a town of 2 stoplights with 7 people. Would just never happen.
Would not happen. So,
well, maybe, but
yeah, I don't know.
So this being your 3rd documentary, and then of course the world had to change on us last year. What's the day to day like for actually both of them? Like, what's the day to day of like being a documentary, like a filmmaker? I would imagine there probably would have been more travel for this one prior to this.
Yeah, usually, Shaun, I'm sure it was the same with his film. You're traveling with Creem. I traveled a lot. We traveled all over the place. And that was a slog, that movie. That was a lot of work. And so by now, if we were in a different, this whole pandemic thing wasn't an issue, yeah, I would have already traveled and I would have already shot stuff and, done a lot more on the ground in Vancouver, although we did shoot a lot so far of in Vancouver, but there's a ton I want to do there. So just haven't been able to do that yet.
Planning, educating
Yeah.
myself. I mean, I had a kind of a major disruption right just before the end of the year, like literally before the end of the year, on the Age of Audio doc, where I had to kind of go back and reevaluate a few things, and kind of it's probably set me back probably about 6 months. And it's so I mean, I've been focusing on, like I said, learning on some new techniques. We shot some test stuff for some, because we're doing some what do you call it, comedic reenactments, which is gonna be great. They're gonna be really funny. And so we shot a test version of one of those during with maybe like 4 of us. You know, I'm in it. I think I might end up putting myself in these comedic reenactments, but mostly I did it because so we could limit the amount of people that we had in the room. We did like rented like a WeWork kind of place that no one was in. We basically on the weekends we had the place to ourselves. And I need to get back to editing more of the actual thing, but I did a lot of editing and a lot of planning. It's been and I did some editing during the lockdown for because I helped Scott with the trailer for Something's Gotta Change.
Oh, no
we
way.
worked very closely together.
How do you guys know each other?
I think a good well, I think they're the Filmage guys.
Sure. Oh, the Filmage guys, yeah. Just being in the trenches together.
Okay.
Shaun showed up to the premiere, the Creem premiere at South by, and slipped me a shot of vodka, and I knew we were going to be instant good buddies.
Oh, nice.
Well, even before that, we had connected from the Filmage guys because the list. The list of venues and the Holy Grail that it's such a list of venues and small theaters that were playing, that were super into punk rock stuff, that the Filmage guys, they gave it to me. I think Scott utilized it for a few of his screenings there.
I was using it I think for that, and also I've helped on when movies were in theaters, I was helping a lot of other filmmakers do their
oh, same. I shared that list with Ian and a few other people. Like, hey, here's a list of the places that like this kind of shit. You know? But and then during South by, I was like, let's hang out.
Yeah.
And and then he hit me up
cool.
At a certain point and was like, hey, do you want to help me with this? And I was like, yeah, of course. Anything. Yeah. Anything. I mean, you're cool. It's like, and Scott is like so cool. I mean, he's a cool guy. Like, I mean, like beyond being a good director and I mean, being a phenomenal director, he's fun. And he's also, if I can gush on him for a second, he's so humble and not like, he's not like, he's just totally down to earth. Like the whole, I think that even the idea of him being nominated, that you brought that up at the beginning, it was kind of like, it's like, it's great, but I don't think he's doing it for that. That's not why he made the Creem doc. I think there's other people that are in his orbit that would love to see that happen, but I don't think that was. He's like, I'm gonna. This is gonna be my Oscar. I'm gonna have it. I'm gonna rule the world. I'm Scott Crawford.
I think it's like I think it goes back. Everything always goes back to kind of like those formative years, when you're a kid and kind of like, and I don't know. So for me, I'm always just, I mean, of course, all that stuff's great, but, I mean, ultimately, we're not doing films just for ourselves, right? I mean, you want an audience to see them. And so, we're kind of narcissistic that way, but also it's just like storytelling and, just thinking about, I don't know, I'm going to sound like some pretentious fucks. I don't want to get into it too much, but yeah, I just, you spend a long time with these things and they become part of you. And so you
over your entire life,
all consuming. And sometimes you have to step back for a month. I had to do that with, with Creem. It was just, definitely had to do that with Creem, and with Salad Days too. I mean, anything, I think that's normal. And, anytime you're doing something creative, you have to, if you're writing, you have to go like, okay, I need a day or two.
Oh, absolutely.
For about right after it happened, I couldn't even, I didn't even think I responded. It was an email I got, and I didn't even respond back to the email for a while. But I basically went into like a temporary depression and stepped away from the whole thing and just kind of dove into like I think we watched a series with my wife, and like I was like, get more. I don't want to like even think right now, because it was like nothing I could do about it. And I knew I was gonna have to figure out the problem later. And so I was like, I don't need to worry about this right now. And I'm just gonna and not suppress, just like not let myself ruminate on it, because I'll just get myself into it's just not good. And so I did, but then it was just for the new year, but then the new year came and I woke up on New Year's Day and I was like, you know what? This is part of the process. This is, things change, and you have to be able to roll with the changes, especially you're making a documentary, you're making something over the course of sometimes 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
People's lives change, people's like perspectives change, people's like, what they thought 3 years ago, they may not think that anymore, and may not want, so it gives me an opportunity to step away from the thing for a second. And it was like, okay, I have a great movie here. I just have to maybe rethink it. And to be honest with you, right now I'm so excited about, I had to mourn the loss of what that particular movie was going to be, because it had been in my head and working with it for like 2.5 years or something like that. And not that it like, it's going to change the movie like dramatically, but definitely
is this the podcast doc?
Yeah.
Okay. You don't have to talk about it.
I had one of my main subjects that I was going to be doing the cinema verite kind of thing, and we were a week before we were supposed to go out there, like they basically they didn't like, and I've talked to them since, they just didn't want to put themselves, they didn't want to cause drama in their lives by stating certain opinions or like taking a position on certain things. Yeah. As far as I could tell, no, they still said they wanted to participate, but they didn't want to, not at the level that I was wanting to.
Got it.
So I had to kind of reevaluate what I was going to do, and I'm still in the process of figuring that out. Like, I actually have a call with another subject that I'm going to see if, give them the pitch and see if they're interested in giving me the level of access that I want, because I don't want to do just a talking head documentary. I want it to be.
Hey, you never know this will lead you. That path ended, but it's going to lead you to something new, and
I'm so excited about it.
You could be more blown away by this new thing. So
I'm so excited. I'm so excited, and some of the people that have agreed to be in the movie, and then I'm talking with. We have so much great stuff. So I was never worried from an existential,
right?
Like the movie is over. It's just like that version of the movie is over. But we have so much amazing stuff already. I'm not worried about what the end result is. I just know that it's going to, because I had spent, a few years building up that relationship and that trust and that, and I'd been in touch. It's cold feet, you know what I mean? And I don't, can't help but think it was me, but from what they've told me, that had nothing to do with it. Just had to do with more with wanting to kind of keep their heads down and kind of focus on their work and not necessarily be, in the subject of a documentary,
Yeah, they can come back to. You never know.
Yeah, no, and that's the other thing about like giving it some space and letting it breathe and just being not tied to, there's certain pressure, not hardcore, but there's certain pressure like, hey, we got to get this thing done, and it's like, as fast as I can, I'm doing what I can,
sure.
And not that there's, like I said, there's not pressure, like hard pressure. It's more excitement pressure. Like, oh man, if we get this done, there's things we can do. But I need to, let the movie, just ride this thing out.
Ride the wave.
I always think I'm like, oh, I'm 3 years in. I'm like, oh God, this is so long. And then like I hear like on a document, like a documentary podcast, they're like, well, we've been working on this documentary for 13 years.
Yeah.
I had to sell half of my leg.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm all right. I'm okay. I'm all right. Oh, and it didn't make any money. We couldn't get distribution.
Right.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh man.
No, you both. I saw you're doing a Kickstarter for this one as well, with really cool prize, with really cool stuff for the backers and stuff. What was your decision to go? Well, why Kickstarter? Why not Kickstarter specific? Why crowdfunding for this doc?
Well, I felt like this was the right audience for that. I mean, the first two we did that too. We did Kickstarter, and we were successful with Kickstarter with both campaigns. But I felt specifically with this film that was the right place to go because. I don't know. I love the communal part of it all. Like we're all making this thing together. And so I felt like that was the right spirit to start things off with, when you're making a film about something like this. And, that this will get us off the ground and running. And then of course we'll have to, seek out additional funding, but this will get us, like I said, off the ground and running. And, we hit our goal in 8 days.
Woo!
Yeah. So it was
Woo!
It blew me away. And so I'm really grateful for all the support, but we have new stretch goals now. We have a new goal we want to reach. So go to kickstarter.com, go to Something Better Change, just search up Something Better Change, and it'll come right up. And you can see we're giving away everything from guitars to picks to LP bundles to DVD. We just added a DVD bundle, hoodies, t-shirts, so there's something for everyone. And
you said now you said that you still had to find additional funding. Now that's something that I don't think a lot of people knew, even like myself up until maybe semi-recent. Like, I guess if you're not in this world in any sense, I guess I always had the view like, oh, you do the Kickstarter and that's all your money. But I didn't realize how many people do the Kickstarter, and that's like you said, that's just climbing the first step, and then you have to find like that is amazing. Do you guys remember when was it Veronica Mars movie did the first one, or was it they made like $1 million, and then the backlash was like, well, just pay for it yourself, or blah 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 blah, and then, which I guess I wasn't that person, but I didn't understand. I thought like, oh, $1 million, they're gonna make a movie. But then like what you just said, it was like, no, that gets our foot in the door. Then we got to do the X, Y, and Z.
Exactly. I mean, there's so many expenses and there's so many surprises along the way that you don't see or anticipate. I mean, I think now I'm probably better at anticipating some of this stuff, but I'm sure Shaun will agree. There's like, hiccups along the way that you just go, oh shit, or, the music component is always expensive. The post-production is expensive. And then you have to, it's like I said, it's a great way to get the movie off the ground and get it to be noticed, and then it gives you something that you can take out to investors and say, look, we did this, and and then
we raised money from people directly.
Right.
So clearly, if these people will pay for a movie that's not even made yet, there's definitely going to be a larger audience that will watch it that are not. If this many core people exist, it extends out to the other layers of fans, people who are like, there's another layer of people who will buy it when it's coming out, and then there's another who will watch it when it streams. If this many people are willing to pay for it without it even existing, based on the concept alone, you're probably in a strong place to. It's more of a sure bet.
Yeah, it puts you in a stronger position, and also it's also kind of like a check for you too. Like it's kind of a way of going like, okay, this is a good idea. Like I was saying earlier.
Right.
You've got a great idea, but not everyone else might think that. And so you do this, and it's sink or swim. And it's every dollar. If you don't make your goal, you're fucked. You don't get a dime. So you're putting it all out there, and you just hope that your idea is a good one. So this is a way to kind of go, yeah, I guess it is. So
validation.
That's the word I was looking for. Yeah. not the most verbal today. So thank you.
It's like the band who has to make a good demo before they get signed, kind of thing.
Right, something like that.
You gotta show like that Warped Tour era where the bands had to like have 10,000 sales before like a label before they all collapsed in on themselves.
Yeah. There's a lot of similarities between that. It's like people come along and they want to buy your film before you're even finished, and then you do that, and then it's kind of like when like in the 90s, or I'm sure it's still happening, but when there was that feeding frenzy in the 90s and all those bands would sign, like Red Cross or something would get signed to a major label, and they'd get a huge advance, and it would be a great fucking record, but it would only sell like 1,000 copies, and they'd get dumped the next day, and it became a tax write-off for the major label. It's very similar to films. They're the same way. And so, I just like the organic approach, and I like, I feel like I know the audience, and, but I'm looking forward to doing something outside of my comfort zone next, but, which will be interesting. But yeah, I mean, this is, it's like I said, it's when you're doing a documentary, you're living with it for years and years and years. And so you better love what it is that you're making a film about. And then there's so many ups and downs, and I don't know how I'm like we're all like a flea on the ass of Hollywood, right? Like we're nothing, but so imagine like, well, Shaun's not, but imagine
I am a flea. I want to be a flea too.
But Hollywood Shaun.
But
I'm not even a flea. I'm a speck on the flea. If you're a flea, I'm the speck on your flea.
But imagine like how fucked up it's got to be at that to maintain that level. I can't even imagine like what that. And I've taken like I can't. Well, whatever. Like for the last film. I can't go into specifics, but we took meetings with studios, and and it was, I won't go into too much, but it was literally like something out of, what's that fucking show on HBO with Entourage? It was like that.
Yeah. Really? Yeah.
Yeah. Where you're like you're in there, and they have like the meeting, like where you're meeting, and you're pitching, there's like a bar in the actual office, full of liquor, and it's looking out.
Oh shit!
And you're pitching your ideas, and they're like this. Yeah. Yeah. So that
literally, that's when you stand up. That's when you stand up. You go zippity bow, and they're like, "What?" I was like, "I don't know." Like, you guys are falling asleep. I figured I needed to do something. Like, do you want to hear this? Do you want to hear me? I'm saying that as not in the room, because you're in the room. You're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry."
Right.
Did I squeak too loud?
But I probably.
You want to be like, listen, motherfucker, like you're just a regular person. I'm saying something cool here. You don't give a shit. Why am I here? Why am I here if you don't give a shit?
Yeah, like why did I get the invite?
Sorry.
But I have.
Yeah, like why waste the time?
I don't know, and I have a little bit of I'm kind of a brat, so like I probably am not the best person to have those things, but I mean, I keep my mouth shut, but I always go into everything just sort of going like, okay, well, let's see where this is going to take us. And
as long as I have final say, I was like, as long as I have final say, I'm down for whatever. As long as I have final say.
Yeah.
Like, whatever you guys want to do, I'm totally down. As long as I get the final say. Well, I mean, which is practically impossible. You get to certain levels. Because they're like, well, you don't have $2 million, sir.
You have final say, but on the other hand, we'd advise you to go in this direction. You can keep it the way you want, but we really strongly advise you. In other words, we're giving you fucking money, so you don't really have final say. But we're pretending like you do. We're pretending like you have.
That's the problem with the money. That's the problem with the money.
It's true. It's control.
Even if it's not like implicit. Like you're talking about, like, I mean, even if the situation is like they don't even say anything, they're still like you're still would be crafting to the expectations of the people who gave you money, like, because like even if they don't say anything, you're still there. It's still there. Like, they gave me money, I have an obligation. That's not a bad thing. I'm not like shitting on it.
No, and there's a responsibility to those folks as well, but there's also a responsibility to yourself and to the audience. And,
well,
So
even crowdfunding, you have a
that's what I mean.
responsibility now to. You have a responsibility. They're your executives, but you pitched it to them, and they weren't sitting in the executive room staring at the watch. They were like, "This is an amazing idea.
Right.
This is exciting. I'll give you $3 or
Yeah.
$10 or $15 or whatever. That's worth it."
I take that pretty seriously, because I mean, people are, they're not seeing your business plan. They're not they're not looking at this and going, well, let's see, we could monetize this if we, and so that's, people say Kickstarter is a nightmare or crowdfunding is a nightmare, and it is challenging, but the trade-off is that you don't have to do exactly what I just said. Like, there's a trade-off. So yes, you have to fulfill these rewards, and and there's a lot of things about crowdfunding that people maybe don't, on the back end, that people don't know about. But also, there's a luxury in that too. And the luxury is that you're not, like I said, someone hasn't written you a check, and a guy in his, three-piece suit hasn't written you a check and said, okay, now make, triple my money. So it's, I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's, I just
give and take.
Yeah, I just like the freedom that comes from that, and hope that people.
There's just different pressures.
Yeah,
There's different pressures. It's a different kind of pressure than someone who's looking for an investment, because there are people who invest in movies that don't care about tripling their money. They care about the outcome of the movie and wanting to have a name on it and wanting it to be successful. And then there's like your crowd that just wants to see something cool that you promised them. Like, I'm really excited about it. I mean, I was excited when he approached me about helping out with the trailer, and like, oh, this is gonna be really cool. And then it was really exciting to see when it launched and see people seeing people be stoked about it. And then also, I'd been out of the loop a little bit for the last few months, because we did it during the quarantine and kind of got to a pretty good place. And then he got Jello and Beto and a bunch of people. So like, I was watching the trailer. I was like, what?
Yeah.
What?
No,
What? Oh my gosh.
I was in such a rush, and I'm sorry, I should have been better about that. But yeah, it was just like,
well, no. It was fun to learn, like, like I said, I mean, it's your project. I got to have a little help, work with you on an aspect of it, which is my honor, to do that. But I mean, it was cool to kind of see it pop up, and then as it's running, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
So like all of a sudden, like, oh, it's going, and oh my gosh, they hit their goal. Oh, that's great. I guess the pitch video worked.
Yeah. No.
I guess I did a halfway decent job. It's just exciting to see like your idea coming to fruition. It's great to see that vaccines are rolling out, so you might actually be able to make it this year.
That's the plan. It's to start doing some stuff in the summer in his hometown, and start traveling to do some interviews. So,
this has been a ton of fun. I'm so excited to get to talk to you again, and it's, at least from like my outside perspective, it's been so cool, because it seems like there's like a class of filmmakers, and there might not be a direct connection from like the last blockbuster to Salad Days, but to me there is. I'm like, well, you made Salad Days, and then I know that, Shaun, that was something that you really liked, and then after talking to Taylor, that Taylor really liked the Fat Rex. So it's like, I think punk rock, you open up the record, you look at the thank yous. It's so cool to see that exists within this like independent like documentary filmmaker. And thank you guys for making art that I just fucking love and let me talk to you about it.
Thank you. That means a lot. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for giving us the forum, man.
Yeah. So any last plugs?
Yeah. Only plug I've got is my one and only, which is Kickstarter, Something Better Change. We still got 18 days left in the I don't know when this is going to air, but we've got, as of today, which is the 2nd of February, we have 18 days left in the campaign. So again, any dollar amount would be appreciated, and it all counts. So thank you.
Well, awesome. Shaun, you want to do your plugs?
Yeah, I'll plug my band for the first time ever. I haven't played a band called Non-Starter, and we did this over the quarantine. We shot this music video for the song, and it's really like a short film. We did about 5 shooting days, and there's like drone stuff, and it's about a guy that's kind of at his lowest point, just getting out of jail, and and kind of dealing with that feeling of isolation and being at your lowest point. So it felt very appropriate during the lockdowns as we shot it. So we're really excited about it, and we're gonna finally have a real YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So next month that comes out. So and we have some stuff on Spotify right now. We did an EP called Season Stuntman. It's on Spotify. It's got a Evel Knievel looking guy on the cover. So yeah, if anyone wants to check that out, I'd be stoked for them to check it out, especially if they like punk rock stuff. So
well, thank you guys.
Why, hello there, podcast friend. I'm Ash Blodgett, co-host of the podcast Let's Rewatch. Together with my co-host and Red Opera D&D campaign writer Pat Edwards, we made a short film in quarantine called Joining Call. And it's finally coming out. The film is the story of a group of people trying to get together to play D&D via a video chat. But all the usual quarantine issues get in the way, such as kids.
Daddy, is this Game of Thrones?
Bobby, what are you doing?
Daddy,
no, come on, it's bedtime.
Poor internet connections.
Thou must cast ye techno devils from thine magic picture box.
Couples at each other's throats.
I want to blow some ogres up with a fireball.
Why is your first instinct to always kill things?
And more.
Zoe, stop drinking! Oh, that reminds me, I haven't had the boss yet!
The film basically takes a snapshot of what life is like right now through the lens of nerds. So join us on our quest November 20th over on my YouTube channel, LaughStashTV, for the film's premiere. You can get there by going to youtube.com/LaughStashTV. And that's stash as in STASH. Till then, I'll just be over here practicing my nat 20s. Ooh, critical hit.